If you've successfully tattooed yourself more than a dozen times, and you've even had other people trust you to tattoo them as well, why wouldn't you take it to the next level? Why wouldn't you get a machine to tattoo faster? And why wouldn't you just try to be a professional tattooist at that point? Hi, welcome to my page. I am a lifelong tattoo enthusiast. On my 18th birthday, I went and I started the mechanical wings I have on my back, and finished those up that year and did not get any more tattoos for more than a decade. Actually, my next tattoo ended up being one that I did myself. I've always felt really passionately about them, and I've always really wanted sleeves. Luckily, now that I've gotten things together, I've been able to invest in a few more art pieces, which has been really cool. But I still have this hobby that I started during the great stay-at-home time. During early pandemic, I started doing a bunch of research. I got fake skin and I started practicing. I like to emphasize the study phase, the practice phase, but eventually you have to get to the experimentation phase. There is nothing like tattooing your own skin. But why not just use a machine? A machine would be so much faster, wouldn't it? Yes and no. When it comes to the actual tattooing process, it could speed up that, but a lot of the problem has nothing to do with the actual tattooing. A lot of the issue comes with the design phase and outside factors that a lot of people just don't think about. A huge amount of hours go on behind the scenes when any clients are not in the tattoo parlor. Obviously, the artist has to draw the art, but there's so many other things that just you don't even think about, and they become infinitely more complex as you get into all of this. Throughout my journey, I started out just hand drawing everything. I handmade every single stencil that I used. That was incredibly tedious, and I have found lots of ways to cut down on the amount of time I spend in those phases. I've invested in some tech that makes this process a lot faster, but I still spend an inconceivable amount of hours in the conceptual phase. For example, I have this wizard tattoo. It was one of the first ones I put down and still haven't finished it. I don't know how I want to finish it. When I first started this leg sleeve, I didn't want to do any color at all. I just kind of wanted it to look gray. But you know, it's life. Things change. There's chaos in the world. Stuff happens. Just gotta roll with the punches, yo. So, a big part in this is, even though I'd love to be a professional tattooist, that sounds really cool, you just really gotta slow down, and you've gotta let creative things be creative, and that contradicts a lot of the modern world that we're living in. Throughout this process, I've pressured myself a lot to have a certain timeline, to do, you know, one tattoo a month, or to make sure I have a video out every X amount of weeks. And very, very quickly, that impacted me in a very negative way. And I no longer was able to enjoy this, let alone just do it. Let alone, you know, act like it became a chore very quickly. And I focused on other things for a long time, and I'm trying to let myself come back around to it. Not only do I have unfinished projects, but I still really love tattoos. I do a lot of different things, and I need to balance all those different things, but at the same time, not spread myself too thin. I recently deleted a bunch of social media. I basically decided I'm done scrolling on TikTok all night. I'd rather read science fiction novels on a library app. And another big part of that is reminding myself, like, hey, as much as I love tattoos, I need to get paint on my hands sometimes. You know, you need to be creative, and you need to doodle, and you need to come up with ideas that can lead to tattoo flash. You know, you can't just focus on tattooing for the sake of tattooing, because then there's no creativity to it. This is very technical, and it's very important to be sanitary, but there's more to life than the technical aspect of a craft. And as much as I would love to wax nostalgic for existential quandaries, we're here to talk about what I actually worked on, which was this. My last tattoo was a Neon Genesis Evangelion sphere, and we had some fallout. So one of the consequences of doing a hand poke tattoo, and also not knowing what you're doing, is you're gonna have some fallout. Most tattoos fade into the skin, they blend a little bit, but another big issue is that the part of my body that I poked has very, very thin skin, and in trying to avoid a blowout, it you know, it falls out. Okay, it falls out. It's not perfect. There's another reason that I wouldn't be a professional stick and pokist at this point in time. I would hate to send someone off with a tattoo and then they lose the bottom inch of it. So even though I've done a few tattoos on myself, it took this experience for me to recognize, like, hey, ew, but the bottom of your foot has more callus on it. The ink that I put into the bottom of my foot did not stay over a month because rubbing from my sock and shoe, because the skin felt thicker at the time I was poking it, but that was just, like I stated, callus on top. And these hobbies just, they need touch up sometimes. It's fine. When I first started this over 3 years ago, I anticipated that there would be a degree of fallout with my tattoos. Actually, my skeleton was my second tattoo that I did on myself, and I thought of that one as a massive experiment phase, that, okay, a year from now, I will know how good I am at this, and how much of it is going to fall out over time. Since then, I've kind of adopted the mindset that you're not gonna know what a tattoo really looks like until 10 years down the line. You don't want your tattoos to get a bunch of sun, but they're gonna get some sun. And you want to keep your tattoos moisturized, but they're gonna dry out and they're gonna settle into your skin a little bit. These are permanent pieces of art. And nowadays with Instagram, we are obsessed with how a fresh tattoo looks. But that is not what a tattoo is. What you should be thinking of is an old Vietnam vet and a tattoo that they got, 50 years ago. Not necessarily something that is a brand new fresh flash right off the shelf. We really don't have a clear concept of what tattooing is nowadays. It's this, what's fresh, what's new, what's exciting. And what's really important, if you're gonna listen to me on anything, please study neotrad. If you're, yes, be sanitary, be whatever, but like, if you're gonna make good tattoos, there's some very simple rules that you should follow. It's very important to keep a rule of thirds in mind. And the thirds is the color values, your whites, your grays, your blacks. You want a very strong contrast so that it's legible. And again, neotrad, that means neo-traditional if you're not familiar with the term. Those are your old school tattoos. Your eagles, your nautical stars, your tattoos that you can still tell what your uncle got tattooed on his bicep after all these years, okay? That should be your standard. And do not get me wrong, be creative. Come up with your own ideas. You don't have to just get old school anchors and pirate ships and pinups. You can put whatever you want on your leg. But a lot of the new styles of tattoos that are coming out might not age well. I have a lot of really strong opinions about watercolor tattoos, about the ones that look like patches, and a lot of people have really strong opinions about my tattoos. These are not as legible as they could be. These are not designed super well. But guess what? It's life. You get to make your own rules. You're listening to somebody who makes up their own rules. You decide what sounds right to you. There were few moments more terrifying than when I first sat down to start that little star on the inside of my ankle. And here I am now. It is insane to look back at older videos when I only had a couple tattoos and how far it's come so far. I really am looking forward to filling up the thigh. I don't know if I can reach that outer side of my leg, but this is my tattoo journey. But it's all part of a larger creative process. Right now we have our before and after, so you can compare what that touch-up kind of looked like. But I want to just branch out, and I highly encourage anybody else who can relate to me and my brain to do the same. Anything that speaks to you, just try it. It's really fine, I promise. Even if you give yourself a not really great tattoo, you could get it covered up. You could get a blackout sleeve. You could get that blackout sleeve tattooed over with white in the future. You could do a lot of really cool things. It's really not the end of the world. It feels like it. It feels like it the first time you go to poke yourself, but it's important to try things and to branch out. But then also at the same time, try new things. I like traditional art, but I'm trying out some digital art, but mostly focused on the art. Just make stuff, okay? I think that's the point. Okay, be safe. I'll talk at you again soon. Thank you, friend.